Learning how to manual has never been this easy. In fact, anyone at any age on any bike can do it by following the simple steps in this video and applying them with some practice. I'm Mike, welcome to Joy of Bike. Today I'm joined by Matt Cordova and Chase Wheelie, and collectively we're gonna teach you how to manual.
So you don't need much to learn how to manual. Really all you need is a bike with a back brake, a parking lot, some flat pedals, and a little bit of confidence.
Some common misconceptions with learning how to manual is pulling up with your arms to start the manual. It's all about technique, not strength.
Another common misconception is thinking that you need to know how to wheelie before you can learn how to manual. These two skills are pretty similar to each other, but you don't need one before the next.
And with the manual, we don't want to start practicing to learn this skill in the grass. I know this one might be a little bit controversial, but grass has a lot of rolling resistance and it can be kind of bumpy, which makes it really difficult to find that balance point. So to kick this off, we're gonna identify the 3 simple and easy parts of learning how to manual.
Part 1 is gonna cover transitioning from a neutral riding position to an actuated riding position.
Part 2 is getting comfortable with the loop out.
And part 3, finding and practicing the balance point.
So let's dig into part 1. First off, we're gonna identify the pivot point of the bicycle, which is the rear axle. So I'm gonna have Chase jump on his bike so we can demonstrate the different types of leverage you have in different positions on the bike. For this first example, Chase is in a neutral position on the bike. As you're gonna notice here, where his body position is, where his weight is, it's almost impossible for me to lift this front end off the ground. Now he's gonna drop back into that actuated position. And what happens is that front end becomes as light as a feather. Before we get on the bike, we're gonna start with an example of something that we're all probably familiar with, and that's leaning back in a chair. If you've done this before, you've experienced a balance point. And one of the big reasons we're using the chair as an example is because you can try this at home and find that balance point, and it also is very similar to what you're gonna be doing when you get on the bike. So to start off with this example, I'm gonna sit here in basically what is my loaded position before I go back into that actuated position. And this is where a lot of people get stuck in the manual. Your weight's not far enough back and you're trying to apply force into your pedals or into the ground to get the front end up. And the front end just doesn't wanna come up. And it's the same thing with what's gonna happen on this chair. When I apply force into the ground in this position, I can only go so far and I can't get comfortable and I can't sit here and balance. Like, this is gonna make my legs really tired sitting here like this. But the second I sit back into an actuated position, I'm able to actuate my legs, put my weight back, and get into a balance point that's nice and comfortable. Now, if this is something you want to try and feel at home, just be really careful, because just like a bike, a chair runs out of balance point and you end up looping out. And unlike the bike, you can't get your feet out to catch yourself. All right, enough of the chair. Let's go get on our bike. Now that we're on the bike, we're gonna start learning this skill. We're gonna start off by rolling at a little more than a walking pace, but whatever feels comfortable to you. You're not gonna wanna go fast here at all. And while we start rolling here, we're gonna wanna find ourselves in a neutral position. From this position, we are going to go into what we're calling a loaded position. And to do this, all we're doing is essentially just crouching down from neutral and loading our legs up. Now that we're comfortable riding in that loaded position, we're gonna start transferring our weight backwards. Now, as we start to do this, I want you to be mindful that we wanna keep our hips in the same horizontal plane that they are in that loaded position. And to do this, we're gonna essentially just start straightening our legs, or basically actuating them like this. So let's run through all of those positions together. We're gonna start rolling at a little bit more than walking pace. I'm in my neutral position. Now I'm gonna drop down into a loaded position, and then I'm gonna actuate my legs to get my weight back. Now that we're comfortable in the neutral position, the loaded position, and the actuated position, we're gonna work on making these all one swift motion, as this is what starts bringing the front end off the ground in the manual. Now as we make this one swift motion, just be careful because the front end is going to start to get really light.
Okay, now that we've gotten comfortable riding in that actuated position, we're going to talk about the loop out. What is the loop out? Well, like Mike said earlier, if you've ever leaned back in a chair, you've probably felt that balance point. If you've ever leaned back in that chair a little bit too far and you've felt your heart drop and that wave of panic kind of set through your body, yeah, you've felt a loop out point. It's very similar to how that feels on a bike. The challenge with manuals and what kind of makes them so scary is at first the balance point and that loop out point feel really, really close to each other. But the nice thing is, unlike in a chair, we actually have tools on the bike that can help us from going all the way on our backs and looping out. Now, it might seem a little counterintuitive to talk about the loop out in a manual video, but the truth is looping out is just a part of learning the manual. And if you are going to learn the manual, more likely than not, you're going to end up looping out at some point. The three of us do it all the time. So we really want to equip you with the skills that you need to manage it effectively and get out of it safely. The other reason it's important to talk about the loop out is if you get comfortable looping out, it'll help you start to identify where that balance point actually is. I think it's pretty common for people to be scared to really commit to finding the balance point because they're scared of looping out. But if you just commit to going past it and get comfortable with the tools and the skills that we're about to share with you, it'll help you kind of dial that back and really start to find where that balance point actually is. Okay, to do the loop out, we're effectively just going to do all of the steps that Mike just shared with you. But when we get into that actuated position and start pulling our weight back, we're really going to exaggerate that and do everything that we can to pop the bike all the way up. And once the bike gets to about here, about this vertical position, we're just going to jump off the back. This is why we recommended to do this with flat pedals, because if you're clipped in, it's going to be a lot harder for you to dismount off of the bike. But if you're on flat pedals, all you really need to do is just jump off and try your best to land on your feet, and you can just start walking away with the bike. Just like Mike did, I'm going to start at about a walking pace. I'm going to do all of the motions to get into the manual, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to loop out. You can see as soon as I got to that point where the bike was too steep for me, I just jumped off and planted my feet firmly on the ground. Remember, it's okay to fully ditch your bike and save yourself. You can replace the parts on your bike, but it takes time for your body to heal. So if you feel like you just need to ditch this thing, just let go of it, let it do what it wants, and walk away safe. Okay, let's practice the loop out one more time. Now, I think it's really important to say here, this is a skill that you should practice again and again and again until you're comfortable with it. Like I said earlier, the three of us loop out all the time, and it's really something that is never going to go away. So you should be as comfortable with it as you can. The other beauty about practicing it is it helps you start to identify where the balance point actually is. As you transition from bike to bike like we have here, you'll recognize that the balance point is definitely going to be different from a BMX bike to a dirt jumper to a mountain bike. It also might just be different than what you think initially going into it. So practicing the loop out, using that as a tool to really start to gauge where that balance point is a perfect way to practice. So we said that we were going to give you tools, plural, on how to avoid ending up on your back on the loop out. Bailing off of the bike is the first tool. The second tool is using your back brake. We started with the loop out specifically because, like we said, this is a really important skill to know and practice, but the back brake is going to end up being your best friend, as when you're in that balance point and you start tipping a little bit too far back, you can just slam on this thing, keep your weight back, but slam on this thing and it'll drop your front end down and keep you riding for another attempt.
Now let's bring it all together for part 3. Now that we've gotten the loop out all figured out, we're gonna taper off the energy we're putting into the bike through that leg actuation as we begin to dial in the balance point. Something that's really helped me with figuring out where that balance point is setting goals for myself, which is one of the big reasons we chose to do this in the parking lot.
Parking lot lines are about 8 feet apart. This is a perfect place to start, and once you got one, you can move on to 2, 3, and then by the end of it, you'll be manualing the whole parking lot. While going from line to line, here's something to keep in mind. Keep your eyes locked on your target and your head up. Once you drop your head, you're more than likely to drop your manual. Now that we have our goal set, let's apply these techniques that we learned so far and start manualing.
As I drop from my neutral position into actuated, notice as I transfer my weight backward, I'm driving that energy through my legs and into the bike as I initiate the front end lift while my arms stay straight and strong but not locked out. As I go through this manual, note how my hips stay relatively in the same plane as I actuate my legs to counterweight the front wheel's height. As the front wheel gets too high, I come forward on the bike, and as it drops, I transfer my weight backward. Finding the balance point is key, but once we find it and want to manual longer, managing it becomes crucial. We chose to teach this skill in the parking lot because it's smooth, flat, and predictable, making it the perfect place to learn and practice this skill. However, you can apply it anywhere you like to ride, such as the pump track. Once you've got the manual dialed in on flat ground, the next best place to take it, in my opinion, is a pump track. There's a couple really good places to practice the manual at a pump track. The first one being roller to roller, and the next one being from berm to berm across a deck like this. So let me demonstrate. One of my favorite things about applying the manual at the pump track is once you've got a manual dialed in on a set of rollers, you can start doing the next set of rollers, which is a double manual, and then you can start doing a whole straight. All right, real quick, I wanted to let you guys know about our brand new Joy Vibes capsule. It's a collection of really rad Joy of Bike gear that's available on our website right now. That's joyofbike.com. I'll put a link to it in our episode description below. And we're off to
the skate park. Some of my favorite places to apply the manual at the skate park is the pyramid boxes and the decks of bowls.
And last but not least, applying the manual on the trail is not only gonna make trails more fun, but you're also gonna be able to ride them a little faster. So I'm gonna show you how I like to apply the manual on the trail. This first little bit, I'm just gonna spice the trail up a little bit, and then we're gonna look for something where I can apply the manual to get through the section just a little bit faster. If you enjoyed this video, cruise down and hit that like button. We're also super curious to know what your goal manual is in terms of parking spaces. So comment that down below, let us know. And if you want to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button and don't forget to ring the notification bell. With that being said, thank you guys so much for riding with us, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.
Oh geez, Mike, you forgot to turn the camera off again. Since we're here, click right here if you want to know how to bunny hop, and click right over here if you want to know how to pump your bike effectively. We got 2 of those instructional videos already on the channel, so cruise over and check those out. Till next time, love you guys. Thanks for being here. See ya.